Hey everybody, you're listening to the Combo Wombo podcast. I'm Chip Monk, and with me as always is the Mr. Gimpy.
What's going
What's
on, man?
happening? See, you got your Naruto t-shirt on there
I
representing
know. Gotta
ninja children murdering people.
straight up,
Is
man.
that
Straight
serious?
up.
Like mission 1, rescue a cat. Last mission, kill God.
Yes,
The
100%.
shit escalated quickly, dude.
I mean, it escalated over what 10 years is how long the original arc was, right? I mean,
This
I
is
guess
the
it's
problem.
quick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at like your schooling now, right? Like where you are from where you start to where you go, it's like a 10-year gap, right? It's like the time skip. So I mean, it happens you start at what when you're like 6, 7. It's like a 12-year gap. So
Yeah, man.
you get it.
So
you get
by
it.
the end of it, you're just slaying gods, dude, and making babies.
Straight. Yeah, for sure.
I feel that series climaxed when he defeated Pain. I felt like that was the end of the show for me.
Ooh, spoilers! No, I'm kidding. Well,
Dude, he's got a Baruto, dude. He's got his own kid.
I was gonna say it's hard to kind of consolidate it because I truly consider, even though it's a continuation, I can truly consider like Shippuden like a separate entity on its own. The penultimate Sasuke Naruto fight to end this series before like 3 years of filler was one of the best fight scenes ever committed to pen and paper. Man, that thing was ridiculous. So
Bro, I was over Sasuke like fucking after 2 years of that show. Like, dude, like, have you seen like those compilations where they mash up like Sasuke in like every language? Where he's like Sasuke.
Yes, I did.
Oh man,
Some good stuff, man. I just had to wear the shirt for the throwback. My daughter is kind of learning to read, so like we've been
you're
going
teaching
through
her Naruto with the subtitles.
well, with the subtitles, but also like some RPGs.
You like turn
and
around like, are you gonna get revenge from me if I'm ever slain? And she's like, yes, father.
Right.
They play the fucking flute like doo 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 doo.
It's mostly like RPGs and stuff. We're doing Secret of Mana together and Tales of Fantasia. So
Yeah,
see how it goes. So just something fun to that's not just reading a book or a comic book or something. Just to keep it going. So
different mediums.
Exactly.
You take them to the public library. You take them to sit them down, play some Super Nintendo, some Secret of Mana.
For sure.
Watch some Naruto.
For sure. So it's good stuff, though, man. What have you been up to, man? You've been on a vacation the last
yeah, I've just been on vacation doing a lot of stuff. Like, it feels like nothing, but also like I've been staying ridiculously busy. Like I showed you some of that stuff I was playing around with. Like, there's this AI program. It's called Art Breeder, and like,
yeah,
it's okay. Like there's definitely some limitations, but there's a lot of really interesting, cool stuff you can do. It gives you a good base plate. Like if you ever do concept art, or there's different levels, and like one of them is called like ideation period, where you're just trying to like figure out like the shape, language, and tone of like a character, and like this character generation gives you like rapid ideation. Really, it doesn't come up with great stuff. Like it's really like busted. But if you're an artist, you can do like a quick paint over and like make it look nice. Like I made a few things I thought were really good, and I'd say I played with it for about like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
So I'd spent some fucking time on it.
That's definitely some time on. It's all AI, right? So it's all from nothing.
Yeah, so like you get to choose the seeds, and then like it tries to generate from like those parents. So it's like if you have like a good eye, you can kind of craft out things. And I'd say like after 4 hours, I probably got like 10 or 12 like really good like things that I could use. So for sure. I don't know. It's just like a raw numbers game on that end, where it's like you're rolling the RNG generator, hoping like for something. But like there's like a few other things that I came like of like that. I'd probably say there's probably another like 40 or 50 like good ideas like in other characters that I came up with where I'm like, oh, that's like some really cool gauntlets, or like that's a nice chest piece, or like I could use like that buckle, type of thing. But like nothing like overall where it's just like, here's a magic microwave, poof, like these are great ideas. This is all it does is
Now, is this concept art for like a feature game project, or are you just kind of leveling up the art?
So that's the bigger problem is like I've just been like doing shit for shits and giggles. So like I spent like 4 hours coming up with AI stuff. I spent like another 3 hours polishing up some character designs, and then like after I finished my character designs, I was like, what the fuck is this for? I'm like, I have like these cool characters that I made, but I'm like, I have no real game for this. And I was like, because like I was thinking about taking it to the next level because I was like, man, these are kind of fucking cool. I should 3D models out of these. And then I was
Yeah.
like, but why though? you know?
Now, does
So
the algorithm is it multiple styles then? So it's because I've seen one of those before where it was mostly like anime styles, so you're kind of kept stuck in this box of only like anime like
yeah.
protagonists. Does it have some a better iteration than that or
It definitely has like those boxes, but it gives you the option from the jump. So it's like, hey man, are you interested in anime? What about furries? What about like portraits? Like what about
there
like
you go.
classical art, landscapes,
Okay.
concept, like characters? So like you kind of gotta and then it's like, what about just wild, wacky shit? And it's like you just combine anything and it like tries to spit out something. It's like an abstract and again, like that's good for uh ideation periods for like coming up with ideas, like coming up with a good shape language.
Yeah.
And I know like I've done that before for landscapes where you take different stencils and like you just smash them all over like a huge canvas. And then like you use different grayscales and then like you zoom in like on like a huge canvas and you find like a little area and you're like, I like this the layout on this, and you use like a 3/4 grid or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
1 by 3 grid, like, and like you find like a good camera shot, and then like you go from that, and then you just paint in whatever on top of that. But it's good for like figuring that stuff out. But
Yeah.
it's just another tool. It's just another
Oh,
tool, you
for
know.
sure, for sure. Any uh
Uh,
any any updates on the Xbox Series front at all, or have you just mostly
uh,
just been
so
enjoying
I got
yourself
to
with it?
the final uh hiccup in that where like I signed the NDA and now like the next part before they'll give you like stuff is like you have to submit your game concept. And I don't have any game concept, so I think that's what got me like panicking and like, oh shit, what can I throw together to
But at
get?
the end of the day, you can run your project on the Series X at this moment, right?
No, like not until you submit your game concept, then they'll give you like the game core for Unity or Unreal, which will let you deploy. I can deploy again to like the universal Windows pipeline,
Okay.
so I can do it through that, but it doesn't let me do HDR stuff. Like, so I'm not no 4K, no 2K. I could probably use like their universal render pipeline in Unity to get stuff out that way. So
Okay.
yes, but no, because
Got it.
all I want is the 4K shit, bro. Like that's the whole point of the project is like I want to see like the RTX, the real time lighting, like big textures, doing big things, uh, in HD.
Got it. Got it.
So I started like trying to come up with a game concepts. So I've been in Unity and I was like, I made a basic turn-based RPG. I didn't like that, but I got it working. I made like those like characters that spawn that advance wars. Like, so I got
Yes.
the two armies
Nice.
to like spawn and fight each other. And I was like, this is a good first step. And then I was thinking about making like a beat 'em up game at one. Dude, my mind's fucking everywhere.
This is moving. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
I'm
sure,
like
man.
trying out ideas. I'm just trying out. It's kind of like I should really just start with like pen and paper and like come up with an idea there. But I'm just like whatever the good idea fairy comes and like hits me with, I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that. Like,
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's good idea fairy is a real thing, and sometimes you get gold, other times you get nothing. But hey,
yeah.
you're on
So I've
vacation, and
also
you have a time to actually, converse with the fairy. So
yeah, with just touching the muse, and let the muse touch me. And sometimes it goes good, sometimes it doesn't, bro. I've been playing with the generic quest again. I've been like slowly making progress on that.
yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 things. Like I got the list right here. Let's see, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got like 5 things on my list I gotta do.
Okay.
And I've done like the top two, and like the other three aren't hard to do. And so I was
Just
thinking
takes
about like
time.
trying to knock that out over today and tomorrow, like the last couple of days of vacation here, where I'm
Sweet.
like, oh yeah, I think I'll just casually knock out the rest of this game I've been working on for like a year.
Hey, man.
Uh,
Hey,
yeah.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
What about you, man? You said you've been pretty sick. You've been living
Yeah,
life.
yeah. I spent the majority of last week sick. It's kind of shaking it. I don't know. I might just start coughing up a lung a little bit during the pod here today, but let's hope we don't.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is Mario Golf came out, so I've been playing that a bit. Streamed that a couple
Nice.
of days in a row. So that's been a good time.
Yep.
Nothing nothing really big in the front. Intoxicated Fable got his own place to live now, so he's not invading
Jumping
the
in the
pod
pod.
anymore. Just jumping in the background. Yes, that's a good thing. I think the big thing, man, is the first day that I actually felt better and Fable was out of my VR space. I just strapped on the headset and jumped into VR right away. I've got into ping pong lately just because Fable was here and there's like a ping pong table really close by, so we've been playing that a lot. So I got a ping pong game for VR, and I spent 4.5 hours playing that the other night, and then ended the
Nice.
night on Pistol Whip. So Pistol Whip's an amazing rhythm game where you're shooting things and you straight feel like John Wick. One of the best VR games, and people who go, yeah, you gotta get Beat Saber or a couple of
Super
like Boneworks
hot.
stuff like that. Super hot, yeah. Pistol Whip,
TR chat.
Pistol Whip, I would say is one of those like VR games that is its own experience and worth it as for one of your first purchases for VR. Very, very, very fun. And now that I'm better, I worked on the my stream a little bit, added some new channel rewards and stuff like that. Got some custom stuff going. So just cleaned some things up a little bit. Nothing on the game creation front. There's some ideas that I poked around in, and I told you that we're working on it now again too. So I got everything updated. I got some base level code done. Got some assets. So I'm ready to just start iterating and start working. But kind of it's hard to do when you're under the weather. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
kind of
man. It's hard to do when
those
you're
things.
feeling great, dude.
That's
Like,
true. That's true. Need
it's
to have
hard to do
time.
when the music's tickling your balls in the background, try giving you a good ideas. Like,
Your idea fairy is much different than mine.
she's
But
a cruel temptress.
yeah,
She'll make you stray from the path of righteous
it sounds
finishing
like
your
it.
game. Yeah.
Sounds like it. But the other thing is like on my free time, I'm actually finally going through the Doom Eternal DLC. I have to say, one of the big things that came out in the last couple of days is Doom Eternal's devs came out and said that they are scrapping the planned invasion mode, which was supposed to be kind of like Dark Souls, how you're playing single player and other people playing can invade your world and impede your progress.
Yep.
Um, that is no longer the case. The Doom devs scrapped it. They cited COVID and working from home as one of the reasons.
Is
And
it just
now,
gone for good, or is there any other? They're just like, yeah, we're canceling this feature because of COVID.
yeah, no, it's
It
gone for
seems like
good.
a huge like cop out, honestly. But
So they are working on a horde mode, which may have co-op. They weren't very clear. They said more to come later in the year. I have to say that the single player for Doom Eternal was fantastic, and I'm enjoying the Ancient Gods 1 and 2. I'm on the final boss fight right now, actually, with the Dark Lord. And while fun, I have to say that one of the reasons that I got like the super expensive version of Doom Eternal was because of the planned invasion mode. It sounded like so much fun. Like we've played through Dark Souls and had people invade our worlds and just you stomp them or you get stomped, and it's a great time. And you can
yeah,
invade others'
especially like
worlds.
for like you when you're like streaming and stuff, where like it adds like a
Yes,
little bit of interactivity with like your chat and stuff. Like it seems like
yes,
a no brainer feature, especially for like a big AAA
a
game
big
like that.
a big AAA game like that, which is like renowned for its fast paced shooting, and like it just seemed like a great idea.
Yeah,
And like when it launched, it had like this asymmetrical multiplayer, a 3v1 battle mode, which was fine. There's some ardent fans of it. I felt it was okay, but I was really in it for the invasion mode. Now that that's not there, I decided to just kind of finishing up the Ancient Gods 1 and 2 DLC, which I'm enjoying. It's great. I don't regret my purchase, but once that DLC's done, I'm gonna uninstall the game and just probably not look back at it for a while. Um,
yeah,
I gotta say, it sucks, man. When a mode or game or something that you've been looking forward to forever, like I was following Doom Eternal's conception, the release, and things like that. I was gobbling up all the news, and the invasion mode just seemed so much fun. To not have it is incredibly saddening. Um,
yeah. It
I do
definitely seemed
think
like a sleeper hit too. Like nobody was really expecting them to succeed. They're just like, oh, take this Doom IP and like put out something so we can continue to have like the rights to this IP.
Well, it's
And
still
then they like
id.
put out like like an ass kicking game, and then they like it
Yeah.
blew up, and then they're like Bethesda got bought out by Microsoft. So it's like a lot of shit happened like from like the conception of like their roadmap to like where they are now, and like it seemed like a lot of that DLC stuff is just going to be a value add
Yeah,
on the
on your purchase.
Xbox Pass. Yeah,
True, true. I mean, well, id Software was owned by ZeniMax for a while, which was Bethesda's parent company. So there's no like rights issues, but it's the issue was keeping the Doom IP relevant. So from
yeah,
Doom 2016, which definitely brought it back to the forefront, was a great game in its own right. Doom Eternal iterated on the combat. It's a little different. Some people prefer 2016, some people prefer Eternal. I like both. I think they both offer great things. But the fact that that invasion mode with the Doom Eternal gameplay is gone, I'm assuming some indie dev will ape the concept. We already see it with the next Shadow Warrior. Shadow Warrior 3 is basically Doom in East Asian clothing with sophomoric humor. I'm assuming that if the guys at Devolver, I forget the actual dev, but the publisher's Devolver, I assume whoever's behind it, if they have some plans, that they're going to tack on some sort of invasion mode that will hopefully be fun, but obviously won't be to the level of polish that id has been known for the past few years, especially. So I'm looking forward to someone else to take that concept in a first person shooter invasion style mode and run with it. I think it's an amazing idea. I was hoping Doom would be the game to have it, but stuff happens, life
yeah.
happens. But
It seems like everyone's been going for that golden goose egg too, as well as like a way to captivate like that streamer audience, because like word of mouth is still like one of the major ways like games like get played.
yeah,
But a lot of it also seems like gimmicky right now, like a flash pan. Like you saw it with like Fall Guys, you saw it with like what was the other one? Valheim, where it's like it's kind of like the flavor of the week, where these games are like priced just enough where it's like, yeah, I'll check it out and I'll play it like for like a couple of weeks with my buddies. But there's no like meat to the bone type of thing where it's like, oh, these are good ideas, but they don't really last. Whereas like it's kind of the opposite problem with Doom, where they have like plenty of meat there to like chew on,
yeah,
but they need to like have like those hooks in for like for streaming or like social media, like social interactions.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. One of the things with the game, though, I mean, like I said, it's battle mode that it has a dedicated niche, and that's fine. But one of the things that I thought was amazing throughout this entire process of Doom Eternal's release is it came out on the same day as Animal Crossing, and there was this huge campaign to have the Doomslayer and character from Animal Crossing to meet, and just like it's like
yeah.
and on Twitter
There's
they
a
congratulate
huge
each other.
precedence for it though, right? Like, because Animal Crossing's had like Dig Dug, they've had Excite Bike, they've had Legend of Zelda, like they have had like crossover events in Animal Crossing, my man.
They have, but those were all Nintendo owned
Yep.
things. So having like a Bethesda character, id Software character, to and a mature rated character at that in your family game was great. I love all of the memes that came out with like the Doomslayer's body with one of the characters from Animal Crossing heads and stuff like that. So so like Tom Nook and the Doomslayer just just chilling, So
I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't talks for it. I bet at the end of the day was the problem, because like you've seen it with like Melee, like where they've brought in mature characters in there with like witch, what's her, Bayonetta.
Bayonetta, yeah,
Yeah, you see Metal Gears showing up in Smash Bro Melee.
Solid Snake,
Uh,
yep, yep,
yeah, so like you've seen like some more mature characters like showing up in like the Nintendo's IP, but they're
yeah,
mostly Japanese companies as well. So like I think there's
true,
a bit of
true.
it like where they want to meet you face to face, like if they're gonna put you in their game. Uh,
There's
yeah,
been some cool stuff with Smash, really, like Kazuya Mishima from Tekken was announced and he's out now. I thought that was cool, and Sakurai really knows his fighting games, and seeing him do these character reveals, especially of crossover fighting game characters, you can tell that he knows the game that it came from, or his team really, prepped him. But
yeah,
and so Tekken, he eight directional moves that all do different things, including some like lightning execution where it's like crouch stand and then you do the move on stand, things like that, which was incredible. So I think that some of the crossover potential with like Doom and Animal Crossing is great. I think that Nintendo is really for the past few decades, honestly, last decade and this current one, they've really set like a company partnership that with through Smash Brothers that's been something special, man. And speaking of crossovers, one of the things that I want to touch on, but I'm going to go over a little bit more, was the infamous Mario Sonic. I think to this day there has
The
been
biggest crossover everyone's been begging for since the 1986, dude. Since
there
1991.
so
Lunchrooms, a fever pitch, paper being tossed about,
yeah, man.
uh, allegations being made, rumors from the 6th and 8th graders always that it's coming right
Yep.
around next semester, dude.
Yep. So I think that there will never be a bigger announcement than when Sonic was confirmed for Smash Brothers Brawl. That was such a cultural hit for our generation, the generation that fought in the console wars of the 90s, like the 16-bit
The great
era.
console
Like
wars.
we came
The
out,
veterans of the console
bloodied,
wars.
battered, bruised.
Yeah.
We came out with battle scars of up up down down left right ba start. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like there's some mileage on that, man. We came out. The Sega kids knew exactly what blast processing was. We did what Nintendo don't. The Nintendo
So
kids go, yeah,
got
but
the
what have you?
mascots with like Gecko and there was a cat one that's dead. Like the Jaguar mascot dead. All of them slaying on the battle, man. Press up to Perry
Yeah,
Smacks,
man.
dude.
Yeah, man. So at the end of the day, unfortunately, as a Sega fan, Nintendo won that console war. They're the last one standing from that. Sega gave them a hell of a run for their money, though, and they were on top of the world for a bit.
I
But
think it
through that,
was. What do you think? Like put Nintendo like as the apex predator of the console war? Like how come? Is it
quality.
because they? Is it just quality? Like it
It's
seemed like they were early into it too. Like they took a huge gamble. Like people forget that people thought in the late 80s, the mid 80s that the
mid,
home
yeah.
computers were done. And like
Yep.
the way Nintendo got around was they're like, no, this is an entertainment system. Like they made
Yes.
up a whole new category of like video games. Like that was
S-
them.
So
Like
the best thing Nintendo did during that era was branding it the entertainment system, but also they had such a huge lead that they could have been fourth place in the 90s console wars and still had money to continue with the 64 and things like that. Like
yeah,
the NES printed money and there no one could even come close to touching it. Sega, came out with the Master System towards the tail end of the NES's life, and it did not do very well. Just because everyone goes, I already have a Nintendo. What's this Master System? And they didn't have any killer apps. You had Alex Kidd, which there's some semblance of fans, and Alex Kidd just got like a re-release. I believe it's number 3 that got re-released. With like a nice
yeah,
pretty polish, but it's definitely it's not Mario. There's a Mario for what it is. All the mainline games have had a huge level of polish to where you really couldn't touch it. Not until Sonic came out, to where you had another platformer with such love and care taken to really combat it. And like you had other platformers, sure, you had like your Mega Mans, Donkey Kong a little later in the SNES life, but those were multi-platform. You had your Castlevanias that were a little stiffer but still solid platformers. But Sonic offered something, and I don't think people younger know how different and how like mind blowing Sonic really was when it first came out, because the level of speed, like they could have used Sonic speed as a gimmick. It was such a hook to where it was great marketing because you're like, oh, Sonic goes so fast, but the level design, you could do it fast, sure, but it really shined if you took it slow. Like those sprawling levels from the first 3.5 Sonic games because Sonic 3, and Knuckles were split, but they're supposed to be one game. But those first three Sonic games, there is such a level of polish that I would go toe to toe with every Mario release. If you take the first three Mario releases, take the first three Sonic releases, you're going toe to toe. There will be some people who say that Sonic or Mario 3 is the best Mario, right? And I'm not talking like the Doki Doki Panic skin for Mario, the in
Yeah.
US. I'm
The
talking
American.
I'm talking Mario the Lost Levels and Super Mario 3. Um, I would say the best from both of those. My personal favorite is Sonic 2. I think Sonic 2 is the perfect side-scrolling Sonic game, but I'll go with the general consensus of Sonic 3 with Knuckles locked in as being the quintessential Sonic experience up against Mario 3. It's a coin toss for me, man. There's no but
Have you
as a
ever
gamer you win.
have you ever seen there's this YouTuber who was a programmer on Sonic? And he breaks down how he helped code Sonic in the levels, dude.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I saw that a
Oh,
while
it's so
ago.
good. I'm gonna put like I'll put like a link somewhere on here, dude. But like the channel's definitely worth checking out. Like if you have like interest in like that, like just the amount of like programming and prowess and like how they basically had like the same level of what the Nintendo had, but they had to like use like so much more like just kind of like how the Game Boy was used as well, like how they reuse like sprites for the refresh rate, how they flipped assets around for like the 3D like in quote like levels where you're going through stuff where it's like the same tile set but like uh
It's like inverted, so
parallax,
yeah.
yeah, inverted and parallax, dude. Like it's nuts, dude. Like just
Yeah.
the amount of coding that they had to do for those games, and like we're
Yeah.
just like yeah, and like how fast, like you're saying, just like the amount of like the depth and speed that they gave, like there's nothing else like it. Like,
Yep.
uh, but
Yep.
yeah, I think that Nintendo's seal of approval, like keeping quality, and they're making money on everything. Like, they had licensing fees for like printing cartridge fees. They're the only game in town, and I think they kind of had the opposite since they're kind of the first player on the market. They have no lost leaders. Like when they put out like the new PlayStation and the new Xbox, they're taking like $300-400 hits on like every unit that they sell, but they're like, oh, we're gonna get you in our
The games,
our
yeah.
uh our wall garden here, and like once we get you in our ecosystem, then you're a customer for life. Whereas Nintendo's like, yeah, buy it or don't, whatever. We're gonna make money on everything, you know?
Exactly, exactly. So that little history lesson for Sonic and Mario, like in the battles that we all fought as children. I'll say when Sonic was announced for Smash, I I bought a Wii. I was ready, and that was the
You're
sole
in.
purpose. And I've said many times before in the pod that to get me to buy a console, I need two games. Sonic was announced for Smash. I got a Wii as soon as that came out. I don't even like Smash that much, but the fact that Sonic was in it was enough to get me.
You
You
gotta
know,
support it.
um, um, and then you had Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games. And here is where I take issue. That is not what we as fans want. We as fans want Sonic and Mario in some sort of platform adventure together. You know,
Yeah.
one day maybe that'd be great. Um, we're getting. It's so funny because we're getting close. We had Smash was perfect because all the kids in the '90s who always like pitted Sonic and Mario. There's a zillion Flash animations from the early 2000s and late '90s of
Yeah.
Mario and Sonic fighting each other. It's like the gaming equivalent of Marvel versus DC, right? Where you have Superman versus all the Avengers and stuff like that. It's that level. Now, then then this partnership they just dropped. Like it's still there, but it's not to where it was in quality from both sides. Sega really is lacking in a lot of that. Outside of Sonic Mania, which was made by fans and published by Sega, Sonic really hasn't had greatness since. Um, and I hope, well, I guess Sonic
He
Colors,
never
Sonic
really made
Generations,
a
but
good transfer over to 3D like Sonic.
yeah,
Whereas Nintendo put that like polish on for Mario 64. Like Sonic never really got like his debut 3D like uh what the hell was that? Like they had the mini game with the Dreamcast with the was it Cho-Chos,
The Chow.
Chow
Yeah.
farmers.
Yep. Yep. But I mean, you had Sonic Adventure 2, but the camera issues plagued it, and a lot of people, just couldn't get past that. Sonic
I
Adventure
think
games are really good, but
I was just thinking about this just today, where I was like, we kind of take for granted, like how, like, because we discussed it at one point, and I was thinking about that conversation today, where you're like, yeah, video games are like a lot easier, and I was like, well, maybe it's the video games have been training us to get better at them over time. I also think there's been like a universal language now for controller and layout and camera design.
yes.
Whereas like before, it was a wacky fucking roll of the dice. Like you have like sometimes cameras are clipping through shit. Sometimes like you had to use C buttons on your Nintendo 64 controller to move
Yep.
the camera around. Sometimes it's like first person. Sometimes it's like a weird overhead thing that like floated, dude. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you had to use like uh the whatever to, it was like you have to move like the camera with these two. The analog stick was like to move the character. It
Yep.
was all over the fucking place, dude. Like the early 90s to early 2000s, like it was a clusterfuck for for good camera, good controls, and like Sonic definitely got lost in that shuffle. He didn't get the needed polish for the camera, and
Yeah.
I also don't think that the systems could handle the speed either. Like we kind of laugh at it and take it for granted, but like even today, like when you're trying to render that many polygons that fast, like uh y- those older systems where they're running at 133 hertz, dude, like they're not able to like handle that, dude. Like it took a lot just to get like a polygons on the screen, and it was all mathematics. So it's like every vertice, like they had to like write those in code, hard code those. Whereas
Yeah.
now you just kind of like drag and drop 3D models, and we're like, yeah, whatever, we take it for granted. But like rendering that many polygons that fast was like a definitely a feat, dude. Like so I think Sonic was just too fast for the early console wars. Literally, like
It's too much. Yeah.
it's
The
too much for it.
No, Sonic has definitely had some gems within there, but I think most people will, even people who are super biased Sonic fans, can recognize that Mario has had the better 3D conversion and things like that. But my all time dream with this crossover is a joint platforming adventure where they're working together. You play as both sides,
Is it 2D or
against like
3D?
2D. I'd like a mix. You know how Sonic Generations did it?
Oh shit! Yeah,
I'd like both characters to work in both dimensions. I'd like new Super Mario Brothers style levels for Mario. I'd like Sonic classic style levels for Sonic, and I'd like them both to participate in 3D levels as well. Sonic obviously in like almost an on rails kind of a thing, and Mario a little more open exploration.
I
Um,
mean, we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but like we're fans, dude. Like, there's nothing really stopping us from.
True. Oh,
we can,
Nintendo will sue the hell out of you if you
no,
even like
we
us
like
talking
not
about it.
Mario. We're gonna get like a cease and desist in the.
Us putting it out in the universe, we're already getting cease and desist.
we're,
That's how
yeah, we're
hard
already like
Nintendo is.
Nintendo's lawyers are like sweating, like looking over this, like, how can we get them, boys?
Exactly. Exactly. So I mean that's one that's probably the biggest example of a crossover that I can even think of. But there's two more crossovers I kind of want to talk about here. Um, we'll talk about probably the most left field one that sounds so normal now, but at the time of release, you're like, what the hell? It led into one of the greatest fighting games of all time, but it started here. Uh, X-Men versus Street Fighter. Now,
That's right.
let me ask, do you remember where you were when you first saw this game?
Let me think. Hold on, give me a moment. I want to say it was the Rosedale Mall
Okay.
arcade. I probably had to been high school. I was definitely in high school, and I had taken the bus out to the mall, and there it was,
Yeah, yeah.
just glistening in the corner, like some sort of time machine, like some sort of Bill and Ted phone booth down from another dimension. Uh, Whereas, like, you kind of walk by it, and I was like, yeah, da, 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 and I was like, oh yeah, they made a Marvel game, and I kept like walking, and I was like, wait, what the fuck?
Yep,
It had to double
yep,
back. Where
yep.
at first I thought it was like Marvel trying to be like Street Fighter. I was like, did
Yes,
Marvel try to make a
yes.
Street Fighter game? This is weird. And then I like went back around. I was like, holy shit! I didn't even. know I
Yep.
wanted this game, and it had like such wacky characters I never even knew about, like that cactus dude with the sombrero. What the fuck?
Domingo.
I don't even.
Well,
It's
well,
great.
that was on Marvel vs. Capcom. So X-Men vs. Street Fighter had Gambit, Wolverine, Rogue, I believe, Cyclops, Storm, Magneto, I believe, were the six. Maybe Sentinel was in there. I can't remember the lineup off the top of my head, but it was one of those things where you're like, how is this gonna work? But you had like the '90s X-Men designs, and you had the Street Fighter Alpha designs for Street Fighter, and just colors flying at you
Yeah.
on screen, man. Like X-Men vs. Street Fighter is famously broken as shit. The entire Versus series is famously broken as shit, but there is no level of there's no more fun that you can have in a 2D fighter than that game. If you look at it from a casual perspective, right?
Yeah.
You will always find a character that you want to play as in that game. You know, and
It definitely wasn't set up for tournament play. I feel like by the time Street Fighter Alpha came out, like Japan had its eyes set on like a tournament level and balance for that game. But this was just like good old fashioned popcorn machine gun fun, dude. They're just like, how can we're gonna throw all the palette colors on here. We're gonna make it like the most ambitious crossover in
yep.
history. And yeah, it was great, man. Like,
Yep. And you didn't know like before, because before there's Children of the Atom, I believe the game was called. It was just Marvel, and it's what set the basis for the Versus series. This game, right? And you had like Infinity Stones that come down and they power your character, things like that, which we'll go over in a little bit here. But then from X-Men vs. Street Fighter, you had Marvel superheroes versus Street Fighter. That's where that was the first game in the Versus series that I owned personally. I remember asking for it for my birthday. It was the only game I asked for. Had it on the PlayStation, and it combined Spider-Man, Captain America, a lot of the X-Men characters as well. You had Shin Akuma, who was like a cybernetic Akuma or Cyber Akuma. I'm sorry,
yeah.
who was half robot, half him. And Terminator 2 was super popular then.
Like when
Like the game was ridiculous.
as a quick aside, like when the fuck are we gonna get a proper Marvel versus DC game? Like you have the
I will
Injustice,
get to
you
that.
have
I will get to
all right.
that.
Let's
so
go.
this ambitious ass crossover, not only did it happen in gaming, at this point in time when these games were out, I believe DC and Marvel were brewing the Amalgam universe. So they had a giant crossover event that was cut down the middle, which looking back on it, not that great, but at the time when you're living through it, amazing.
Yeah.
And then it was to the point where the conflict created this amalgam universe where you had like Wolverine and Batman combining to form a new character, Dark Claw, I believe. And I kind of forget the rest, but that's the only one I really remember.
This is the only one worth
But
mentioning.
yeah, exactly. But just like as a '90s kid who would not only was I in the Sega versus Nintendo arguments fighting for Sega, I was in the Marvel versus DC arguments fighting for Marvel because Spider-Man's my favorite character. Over on the DC side, Batman's the greatest character. I think we all know that, and Batman's probably the best hero. Arguably.
Yeah.
But I'd fight tooth and nail, and I'm like, okay. I was like, okay. So every time I go Spider-Man, someone goes Batman. I'm like, okay, cool. They're like Avengers. I'm like Avengers. They're like Justice League. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like X-Men, and then they're like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, shut up. you know. So you had Marvel vs. Capcom. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out. At that point in time, the final game of the series that just took everything from this, the entire Capcom library, the entire Marvel library up until that point, picked and choose some of the best or some of the most obscure characters, and just masterpiece. Like
Yeah.
something that has that level of fervor, and that character roster of like 53 characters hasn't been topped. And that came from the glory of a crossover and Marvel not really knowing what to do with their characters in other mediums outside of comics. And Marvel was in dire straits at the time, with flirting with bankruptcy, and you know and the behind the scenes to set the stage for the groundwork for the MCU, with Iron Man kind of being the first
Yeah.
to
It's just
kickstart things. But you had other characters like Blade and the original X-Men movies doing all right. But crossovers, man, it definitely breathed new life, and it kept the fighting game genre alive towards the tail end of the 90s and early 2000s.
It
And
definitely felt like the fighting genre as a whole hit like kind of like a very big lull like towards there as well. Like whereas like okay, like nobody there was like other there was an explosion of games there like in the mid to late 90s
mhm,
of like really shitty fighter games like that were just like everybody was throwing the hand down into the everyone was tossing the gauntlet down to be like, oh, we're gonna be the next Street Fighter, we're gonna be the next Mortal Kombat.
yep.
uh and like nothing was really hitting. Like you had people trying shit with dinosaurs, robots, yeah,
Hey, Red Earth was
claymation.
great. Primal Rage was great.
I wasn't naming names, bro. I was just throwing out generalities.
But um,
You had people
uh,
trying shit with mutants. Uh, yeah, people, Bandai throwing in their hat with like their
Bloody
Power
Roar,
Rangers and yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Bloody Rars and fucking yeah. Everyone was trying everything like towards the end and like nothing. There was like weird fighter games from Japan, and I know like right now I think there's like one that became really big where it's like all the shonen characters they're battling. I don't know, like I don't know a lot about Japan, but I know there's like two really big fighter games that have come out where it's basically like all these weird characters from mangas that are joining up and fighting and like they have like a big crossover thing
yeah.
over
It's like
there.
this shonen series that's been around for a bit, in
Yeah,
different
they're not great
iterations.
fighter games, but like
It's a
they're
spectacle.
basically yeah, they're surviving purely on the spectacle of like the name recognition. Where it's
Yeah.
like, yo, you want to see Naruto fight Bleach? This is the only game in town, baby. Buy it.
I love how the character's name is Bleach. Just like it's a jar of bleach. It's not Ichigo. It's just a
Yeah,
jar.
no, just Bleach.
Yeah.
It's just Bleach.
But you get this spectacle from crossovers, and now I know what you're thinking. Like, oh, companies working together for crossover. Who gets the money? I mean, we're not talking about deals there. I believe with the Marvel vs. Capcom series, I'm pretty sure Capcom reaped the most benefits from that.
They're
Um,
doing the heavy lifting. It was
they
more
did.
like a
They did.
licensing deal at that
Yep.
point, where it's like how much to license your IP to put them in our game.
Yep. Now the idea of crossovers probably had its true start in fighters with SNK with the King of Fighters series. You took Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, Makari Warriors, things like that. Just combined them into one fighting game, and you get King of Fighters. And around that time, you had like the best fighters. So yeah, King of Fighters 94, 98, 2000, 2002 Ultimate Match, things like that. Great time, great time. But SNK was the other big fighting game company, and Capcom, they didn't just sit around rest on their laurels for Marvel vs. Capcom. They said, you know what, crossovers are great. Let's do it again. And then we had
Yeah,
Capcom versus SNK. This is the Capcom versus SNK is the it can be said it's the you know Mario versus Sonic in the fighting game world, especially at that time.
yeah.
You had Terry Bogard of Fatal Fury going up against Ryu,
Hey, come on,
Hoshi
come on.
from Street Fighter. You are more likely Ken because they're both very red and have blonde hair, but it's like
So
the
confusing, dude.
mainstays. You had Geese Howard versus Akuma. Or Ben Bison. Let's do it that way, and then yeah, it's just it's everything in the 90s that you argued over. Like, these companies just said, let's make it a game, and it was such a great time, man. Now,
Yeah.
I think that great things can happen with crossovers, but then you have other companies who aren't really successful with it or know what to do, or you have one company who wants to win. you know there
Yeah, they're
was
like, "Our characters have to be stronger, they have to be better, uh, we can't show weakness." I mean, you even
yes,
saw this with, like, infighting with, Disney when they had, Disney Infinite, like, the game with, like, the little, uh,
yes,
gotcha gimmicks where you put on, like, the physical toy onto, like, a little summoning thing.
yep,
Uh, that was successful, and they still disbanded it. Like, they're like, "Oh, you guys only made, like, $100 million in profit, we're canceling this whole thing."
yep,
And, like, but like the stories from like the infighting from like every department of Disney, like every IP is its own little department in Disney. So it's like oh, you want to use like the Aladdin character? Well, you have to use this character and this character. You can't use like this monkey. Like you have to
Abu.
use like yeah, you can't use
Yeah,
Apu, bro. I wasn't gonna name nails, keeping it very generic, very broad
sorry,
terms.
sorry.
uh, but yeah, so they were like, you can't use the A team from a lot of these departments because they're like, oh, you're gonna devalue our brand. And it's like, bitch, everybody wants Aladdin for Aladdin, the genie, Jasmine, Apu, fucking Jafar, bro.
Jafar, yeah,
That's
for
it.
sure.
Nobody wants the fucking third and fourth string bad guys that were from the fifth and sixth movies in this. But like the infighting is ridiculous
Yeah,
for like a lot of these like, and that's in house. So you can
yeah.
imagine like working with another studio or another team where it's like it gets some people get very litigious, very protective over like their
Yes,
IPs.
yes.
Yeah,
The original crossover in media that I can think of is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, right? Disney and Warner Brothers working together. You had Donald Duck and Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse going head to head on screen, you know, and they famously couldn't agree on anything on
yeah,
who would
man.
have the final joke. They had things where each character had a set amount of time. Like Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse have the exact same amount of screen time.
Has to be the
it,
same.
it's yeah, so it's incredible that any of these things get made. Now let's move forward in time a little bit here and get to some other crossovers that happened that you might not be aware of. There's a time in the 90s where there's a there's a series that went head to head with Doom. That series, Duke Nukem. Famously, the third game in the series, Duke Nukem 3D, is probably the best example
Shake
of
it, baby.
exactly of a series that peaked and through just horrible management, just never really got to capitalize on what it's about. Like Duke Nukem, the game was great, the graphics at the time were great, the character was great, and
It's a lot of sophomore humor.
it's a lot
So
of
I've heard
software humor
this
because the first.
argument being made more and more where comedy doesn't age well at all. Like
No, no,
so
it
like
doesn't.
across like just comedy in general where it's like it's a very contextual time and place. A lot of it's like using references at the time as well, where it's like, oh, this is referencing like a very specific 80s movie or like 70s movie.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like,
kick ass
if
and
you
chew
didn't know,
bubble gum.
yeah, or it's like in the zeitgeist at the time.
Yes,
So
yes,
uh and that's like comedy across the board where it's like a community thing of a time and place, and it's like us all coming together and making fun of the absurdity or the surrealism of a situation, or just like stupidity of like
yes, yes.
yourself or others.
S-
So
So,
so
yeah,
I don't know. I was just putting that out there that I've
yeah.
been hearing that more and more. Where like, hey man, comedy doesn't really age. Like it's kind of weird that uh people are getting like canceled for tweets and stuff like that. Where they're like, let's go back 15 years and like pull out like some ridiculous shit you said. It's like, yeah, we're always saying ridiculous shit,
But
bro.
if you look at the landscape of the time and everyone's saying shit like that, that's the thing. But to go with my Duke Nukem thing, they went head to head with Doom. Right, they're both shareware monsters. Duke Nukem had the better graphics at the time. Doom had amazing gameplay and was the top of the world and to put FPSs on the map. Yes, Wolfenstein created for what it is, but Doom perfected it. Duke
Yeah.
Nukem was like the 1B to Doom's 1A, and then Quake came out, and the rest is history.
Was it
But
you who told me the Doom guy is the son of the guy from Wolfenstein?
yes, so the timeline is Commander Keen is like the first. That Commander Keen's son is BJ Blazkowicz, who the Wolfenstein, and then like much later in the future, the Doom guy is BJ Blazkowicz's kid.
Okay.
That's the official id timeline. You guys can look this up. It's
Yeah.
great. And I assume like the Quake soldier, Sarge, or the Ranger. Let's say the Ranger because it's the more iconic Quake person because Sarge was just Quake 3. But the Ranger, I believe, is like a cousin, but I think that got retconned right away. So yeah, good stuff.
She's still a cousin, bro. Like the Quake timeline is also weird because like the beginning of that game is like aliens have taken the best fighters throughout history and like brought them to a tournament or
Well,
some
that's Quake
shit.
3. Quake 3.
Is
Quake
it Quake 3?
original.
Yeah.
Quake
So like
original. The main bad guy
anything
was
could
named
happen in
Quake.
that timeline. Anything can
Yeah,
happen in that
yeah,
timeline.
yeah. So in Duke Nukem, they seriously just grabbed a sprite from Doom of the Doom guy being impaled on a spike, and it's poorly hidden so everyone can find it, and
Yeah.
you run across the Doom Marine and Duke Nukem going, "That's one doomed space marine," and you continue
Yeah.
on, just a cheap joke. So like crossovers like that have happened, and it's a great cultural thing. Now, Duke Nukem didn't get a true crossover until nearly 25 years later,
Yeah.
and it
When they
wasn't even in
finally
a
launched like Duke Nukem Forever came
forever.
out.
Yeah, yes, and the
And then
crossover
like,
he got wasn't even in like a big game. Like,
how dare you, sir? That game was like they were hoping it'd be a big game.
I really liked Bulletstorm. It was great, but the crossover was in Bulletstorm, and Duke
Yeah.
Nukem was DLC, and not much changed. It was basically a
I,
cash grab, but it got me.
it definitely felt like Bulletstorm was poised to be like the next big game, but like everyone was waiting for the next Call of Duty to drop. It felt like it was weird because like in theory like that was a great release window because it was like just after Halo and right before Call of Duty,
Well,
and they're
Gears
like,
of
oh
War as well. It was after Gears, but
yeah,
yeah, go
so
ahead.
they're like, we're gonna slide it right in here, and it's gonna fill this beautiful gap. And it was like at that point, everybody was just playing the online of like those other games, and
the
they're like, yeah, I don't got time for new shit, bro.
the
Like,
problem with Bulletstorm was it was a single player game in a time
yeah,
where multiplayer was ruling the roost.
it was
So,
king. And
but
people it was kind of like the gameplay time, like on the back of the box, where like a certain point, like people like expect 40 hours of gameplay, and they're like, oh, it doesn't have at least 20 or 40 hours of gameplay. I'm not buying it. And then like after that was like multiplayer. It's like if this doesn't have online, I'm not buying it, bro.
yep, and that's what
So
killed Bulletstorm, and that's too bad because Bulletstorm was great. But that's the
yeah,
only real crossover the Duke Nukem got. Like really, and now that Microsoft owns Bethesda, there's been talks that and rumors, which I'm sure is mostly fan grumbling, of the Doom armor, the Praetorian armor, appearing in Halo Infinite. I hope it's true. One of the things like with crossovers
I
you
wouldn't
had.
even be able to tell like if you had like put that armor like somewhere in the background. Like it would just fit right in. I'm like, oh, is that Master Chief armor? Especially like when they started opening up like all the custom armor shit. Like
Yeah,
by Halo was it like 3 or 4 where like they're like customized the whole kit and caboodle. It
yeah,
was like
it's
fuck
three.
it, everybody's a Master Chief now. Uh,
Yeah. So I mean, we can have that. Now there's RPGs as well.
you know what I'd want to see?
Mm.
If we're in this, if we're really talking about this, I want to see motherfucking Doom Hell creatures escaping into the Halo and like having Master Chief having to fight off those monsters,
The
dude.
Hell Monsters.
Yeah. Yeah, give me that. That's the I want the Hell monsters crossed over with Halo.
That's pretty.
Uh
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm
like
not
they
even
can
gonna
fight,
lie.
yeah. Yeah, dude, like that because like if you give me like that combat system in that new Doom game with like the finishing moves where you can combo things, give me like that combo system in the Halo game with the Doom monsters, dude. I'm in. Sign me up. Just like have it as like a weird one-off DLC or whatever. Just be like buy this game for like just like a little like a slice, like how
Slice. Yeah.
they do like
Yeah.
the E3 demos where it's like held together by shoestrings and like hopes and dreams. Like, yeah, give me that.
No, there's. It's terrible, but also great at the same time. Like,
Yeah, like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what the crossovers I want, dude. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, like it sounds bad, but there's so much potential there as well,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's it's a
Uh,
potential space. And that's what the beautiful thing about crossovers is like uh if they hit hard, and if they miss, you're like, there was so much potential there. Oh, what you know what
yep,
I'm saying? Like
yep,
even like with Bulletstorm and Duke Nukem, where we're like, damn, if Bulletstorm just had online play and like it was just that little bit more, it could have been something huge. It's like, yeah, it could have.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We're getting, man. I can't believe the time kind of just flew by here. We're getting close to the to wrap up. I did want to touch on like the RPGs, like the Neptunia series. I believe that's what it was called, where it's like Sega, Bandai, a bunch of other things just got together, made this weird RPG universe where you had like Capcom characters, Sega characters, Bandai characters, and like Yu-Gi-Oh in there or something like that. It was just like
All
this
right. Yeah.
craziness. That's one genre that I think you could just throw the kitchen sink at it, have a decent like battle system, and and a story that somehow made sense, a multi-dimensional time hopping story, and you're just
Yeah.
fine. Any experience with that style of crossover, like the card battling games as well, like the Capcom versus SNK card battlers series, where
Yeah, there's like a bunch of them
super
like
sushi.
on mobile right now where I've like seen
Yes.
a couple of like uh Tales of Gods and Demons has like some weird crossover and I like tried to download that and I was like, this isn't what I want. Like uninstalled immediately. But like, yeah, man, like they're definitely trying like different crossovers. There's a lot of crossovers like on the mobile market. Most of them
Yes.
aren't great. A lot of it's like licensing deals, like where they're like, oh, we have the rights to throw in this character on our cards, our skins. There's a lot of skins
Yep.
right now you can buy where it's like homage to like King of Fighters right now in the
Yep.
game I'm playing. What the hell's it called? Like Mobile Legends. I don't know. It's like bootleg League of
Okay.
Legends
Sure.
that were made by the parent company. Like
Tencent
there's like a
or Riot.
yeah, no, Riot got bought out by Tencent, or like the majority stake of the company got bought out by Tencent. And then they're like, hey man, put the game out on mobile so we can start printing some
Oh,
fucking
so
money.
you're
And
playing
then like,
Wild Rift then? Is that what you're playing? That
no,
cool
no,
game?
no.
Oh,
And then they're like, nah, bro, we're not gonna do that. So then Tencent went to this other company and they're like, yo, make League of Legends, but not League of Legends, wink wink. And so they did. Uh and like I think it's called like Mobile Legends or some shit. But I play
okay.
that game. Like I'm like
Huh.
a high tier grandmaster or whatever on that. Like whatever the thing is that like makes you play against other people who play that game professionally. That's
Yeah,
the level I got to in that game, just playing casually.
of this mobile
Uh
game. Yeah, congrats, dude.
yeah.
Killing
Thanks, bro.
it.
You know, you've made it where like every name in your match is a Korean name. like all I played against is like Korean people. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like this
Yeah,
is all
there you
right.
go. Now,
Yeah.
to wrap up, I gotta
But they have
say,
King of Fighter skins in that game.
oh,
That's
all
right.
right, all right. What's one crossover that you've played that you've loved, and what's one that you would like to see in the future?
I mean, now I definitely gotta say Doom and Halo, like right, like that's I've already hyped it up.
Yeah,
I
right.
wouldn't mind like finally seeing the nail in the coffin to the argument, like a Sonic X Mario,
Yeah,
like just make it happen. Uh, you know, I know like if they tried to make that fan game, like Sega would be cool with it. Nintendo don't.
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
so yeah, I'm sure like there's probably a fan game out there or two of it, but nothing that's risen up to like the. And I bet like they all got like shut down, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
mostly,
it's
or they were too terrible to even warrant litigious action. So
yeah, it's like some weird flash game where it's like not Mario. It's like
yeah.
yeah, so definitely those. What about you, man?
As far as that I've played, one of the ones that came out of left field, Cadence of Hyrule. It's
Yeah, like
like the
Dance of the
yeah, Dance of the Necrodancer. It's like a rhythm game that just randomly just added Zelda into it. It's like, what the hell? This is awesome. So that was one of those that was unexpected, like left field. That was great. The shout out to the Samurai Warriors Dynasty Warriors crossover series as well.
that
Same
was
parent
good.
company. Yeah, yeah. As far as
The other ones I've
crossover,
played is Total War. Like they've had like a
oh, like
bunch
the
of
Total
like
War
those.
Warhammer.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I actually was gonna pick the second game up
and you
for
can
that
see like
myself.
my army of Warhammer guys
Yeah,
back
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, oh fuck yeah, I forgot that's a thing. Shit,
Yeah,
that's
and
great. Sunk a lot of hours into that.
oh, I bet. And as far as the crossover that I want to see, um, obviously and we spoke about it, the Mario Sonic true platformer crossover game would be phenomenal. Um, and honestly, at this point, Capcom versus SNK 3. I want them to do it one more time. You know,
So I was
I
throwing out like maybe Marvel versus DC, like a final proper.
oh, I forgot to go into that.
Yeah,
We have a little bit of
you
time. We have a
hyped it
little
up.
bit of
You
time.
left us on a cliffhanger, bro.
We have a little bit of time. We have like
Still
two-ish
time,
minutes.
quickly.
So, rumor has it. So NetherRealm is owned by WB, right? WB is trying to
From
get
the eighth graders.
yes, WB is trying to get rid of their gaming licenses or their gaming companies because they want to get out of gaming completely. They have one, but they also just did a deal where they're making the next Marvel game. Rumor has it that DC is working on the next Marvel fighting game. Now, the last game that NetherRealm did that's a fighting game was Mortal Kombat 11, but before that, they did the Injustice series. So they already have this fighting system with the Injustice characters. They already have like Batman, Superman, all the big DC characters in a fighting game
Are you
with
trying to
movesets
tell
that
me it's
everyone
just a
knows.
palette swap, bro?
No, no, no. It won't be. It won't be because you won't get away with that in this day and age. But if it's true that they also have the Marvel license and it's NetherRealm, the last time NetherRealm made a game that wasn't a fighting game, it was a beat 'em up. So unless we're getting some Shaolin monks looking game for Marvel and DC, that would disappoint everyone. If the rumors are true, we will be getting a Marvel versus DC game, and it'll be NetherRealm produced, which I have to say it's a little disappointing because you have 20 years of the Japanese style fighting games to go to
Yeah,
the NetherRealm style. Despite me being a Mortal Kombat fan, I'm so used to playing these Marvel characters in that style of fighting that it's going to
yeah,
take some getting used to. But if this is true and NetherRealm has cooked up a new fighting system that is as responsive and as speedy as like the as old and something new, I'm here for it, man. They
yeah.
experimented with the tag action in Mortal Kombat 9, and I thought that they were onto something. So I'm hoping maybe we'll get the speed of MKX with the tag action of MK9, and we'll have something beautiful. So hopefully that's just rumor. You heard it. You heard
I
it
hope
here.
that yeah, I hope there's like enough. I feel like it's like one of those field of dream things, where it's like if you build it, they will come. I feel like there's like a lot of untapped people who were really huge into comic books in the 90s that like fell off. I know like the reader base for comic books has always been like people in their 40s and 50s. Like it's always been like the age demographic for comic books. It's been like really young people and old people who grew up with comics and just like never
Sure,
fell off.
sure.
Uh, because like back in like the heyday of like the 90s, like they're moving 3 or 4 million, units of like Spider-Man and X-Men and Spawn. So I'd like to see like that fan base come out for like like a big collab
Big collab.
for
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
If it's good, if the game warrants that, if it's like big
Yeah,
enough where it's like people are like dusting off their sticks and they're like, let's do it, boys.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
Keep them
So
sticks in the closet. This has been the combo wombo. As always, I'm Chipmunk, and with me is Mr. Gimpy.
all right.
So like,
So,
subscribe, follow.
you bitch. And in the comments, leave your favorite crossover and the crossover that you'd like to
The
see.
most ambitious crossovers ever.
Take care, everybody.
Peace.